So, because I forgot to record it, let me put down this to go real quickly. So the Seder Yud Sefirot, the Pratos of the parts of Chagat and Nai, which we said before is a combination of two different sections, but it's in one. He sees it as one Partzuf here. The Zer Anpin the Ratzilus Anisaknim Al Yedecha B'Mitzvahs Aseh. So which that's what we said, and he says that there's a kasser here. That's the first. Let's say the first box. And then then after that, then you're going to have the Chagat, and then you're going to have the Nai. Now we're all focusing here on the concept of Yesod, because Yesod is where Yaakov and Rachel goes, and and each one of them has to do with different kinds of mitzvos. So Netzah goes mitzvahs Asher Shalazam Grumman, the same thing with Hod. And then you have this with Yaakov and Rachel is mitzvahs the Rabbanan. Let me go quickly, but let's try number. I know I've got to skip here a little bit. Let me just read here on number Yud, number test rather. V'hem b'yesod the chamisha gevuros. So he has this phrase. It's the yesod of the 5 gevuros. V'hem b'yesod the chamisha gevuros. He says ki mitzvahs lo sa'aseh hem gevuros. Okay. V'hem mitzvahs aseh hem chasadim. V'gam mitzvahs aseh the Rabbanan the v'asisach al pi hadibor, that particular pasuk. V'hem b'Yaakov and Rachel, that comes down to Yaakov and Rachel, the parts of Chagat Nai, of that parts of which we said before. So he said, but b'kol mitzvah the Rabbanan shemekayin, that he fulfills, yeshna gam kem ha mitzvah shal v'asisach al pi hadibor. So there's also a mitzvah there. They should do it. There's a positive commandment. She mitzvahs aseh the Rabbanan, but the chen ki shayechas gam the parts of Chagat Nai, because those are the lower 6 that we're talking about. The action takes place. Shukha the parts of a mitzvahs aseh. This is the place where the action takes place. Gamo should be Ardach of the El, who will be Yaakov of Rachel, shall of parts of Hazeh. It's the Yaakov of Rachel, but all of this parts. V'hine, so he says, v'hine mikan ve'elach, maybe kitzer ha'kavanos b'shar kavanos. Now, a lot of this we saw already, and you could never hurt to see it again. But I think, in the case of interest of time, we'll skip, and we're going to go to number Kaf Daled on page Nun Daled, and start something a little bit different. And he's going to say it like this: Od yekaven sheyesh bebracha zu. So now you're in the bracha, and he shows the bracha on the left side. Let's see the lost Rebbe there. Let me get him back. Where are we here? Reason. Whoops, she's trying to call me. Okay, go back to it again. Okay. All right, we started Kaf Daled. Let's look at it again. Kaf Daled said, "Oh, you kavan." Here's another kavana. Now he went through some kind of kavanas that we did already, and it's nothing wrong with going over it, but we don't have that much time. We'll go to number Kaf Daled. Oh, you kavan sheyeh bebracha zu Yud Gimel Teves, v'hem keneged Yud Gimel mechilin derachmi. So we got the number 13. We're playing number 13 again. Let's see what we could do with it. He says, Kamona Zu, he says, Mepri Eitz Chaim, he says, Ki Bebracha Rishona Yesh Yud Gimel Tables, Connected Yud Gimel Mechina Derachme. So he says in the bracha, he says that, which he shows us down below, is Lahadlik Ner Chanukah, that bracha. There are 13 words, and they correspond to the 13 Tikkunei Dikna of Erikan Pen V'Yikaven B'Kol Tevach Merabracha. The Sakain Echad, the Tikkun Echad, Chaydach B'Teves Baruch Yikaven the Tikkun the first Tikkun, which is Kale, B'Teves Ata, Yitikun the Tikkun base, which is Rachum, and V'Haya the Tikkun Gimel. So then V'Ravaya, then you go on to the Tikkun Gimel. V'Handach is also, it's going to be on the 4th. And here's a little drawing he has of it, where he says, so he just shows you the tikkunim up above each one of the letters. So the names of the Tikkunim. So he explains, who the Ima Makashet is the Varta. This is the situation where we call that Ima is Makashet, she adorns her daughter, the Sakna. So what is she trying to be misakein? And I could use a little more background on this. So he said the takana chod, the takna chod, didot, in order to be able to make a tikkun in her chod, b'shmona mechile derach mishachu b'min kail ad noitzer. And how do we affect this? Apparently says by the first 8. Let's see how he means. He the ima mekashet the bar to the sakna b'chod didot, because chod, let's say b'shmona mechile derachne. The Indian Kavana Zucha, the Ima Makashet is the Barta, that phrase which we've seen before. He says, the Barta, the Ima, Mamshicha the Nok, so it causes to flow into the Nok, Hayud Gimel Bechina the Rachme, min Kail, Hatikun Hashmini. Because the Tikun Hashmini is the nozzle or the mazel, from which all what is up above it flows out. So he says, L'sakna b'hod didon. What's the purpose of it? Is to build her hod, because she's on hod. She's the rachel part. That what he wants to say. Shehu shmonis yimei Chanukah, which is the 8 days of Chanukah, because the 8 days of Chanukah bring us to the 8th mazel. Ki Chanukah hu b'hod, because that's a rule there. He says a Chanukah is in hod. Okay, I haven't seen that, but maybe I missed it. So now he says like this. Let me read. So I looked at this word mechilta, and it means apparently midah. So he says each one of the midahs, kolula miyud gimel, it has 13 within it. So in other words, we'd say kale, that's the first one. It's going to have 13 midahs within it. Each one of them has 13. I thought he was going to do something with 13 times 13, but I don't think I saw that. So you're going to be 1 meter down. So he explains, he called tikkun kolula he miyud gimel tikkunim. Every tikkun is actually 13 tikkunim. The rishon, she'ana mekuvana the tikkun the rishon, which is kale, ana mekuvana bekol teves abrachot, of the Yud Gimel Tikkunim v'Kolula b'Tikun Rishon. V'chein b'Leil Sheni she'ana mekuvana the Tikkun Beis shuhu rachon mekuvanim called the Yud Gimel Tikkunim Kolula b'Tikun Sheni. Hayot salon the mitzvah. So now what's coming out like this? She'ana b'Oisim Yud Gimel Pamim Yud Gimel. Now, previously I'm a little confused because he said the kales they stop with I guess they go all the way through. But he said the first 8 is the most important. Something like that. I'm trying to put it together. Here he's got 13 times 13. The call Laila Mekuvana, the Tikkun Sheba'osal Laila. Each night we have to think in terms of the Tikkun that takes place at that night. Shebo Mushrosh called Yud Gimel Tikkunim, because in each Tikkun there's a root of 13 other ones. Shmini. Now when you get to the 8th night, this is talking about that little contradiction I thought. Of Leil Shmini, Leil Zos Chanukah, Osim Shisha Pamim Yud Gimel. So we bring in all the rest. The Hainu, that is one for itself. That is, and the other 5. Hainu Shebesheves Ayam and Hakodmi, because in the 7th, in the Sheves Ayam and Hakodmi, in the first 7 days. But when you get to the 8th day, which is tonight, you're there going to have to bundle everything. Midot and this causes, all of this shefin that's coming in is causing a yichud to take place between number 8 and number 13. So this is the ma'ala of Zos, this phrase Zos Chanukah. I don't know. Zos b'lashon yichud, so b'lashem yichud. So he's going to talk about the shem yichud in a minute, or somewhere along the line. Gam yakaven. So he says also you should have this kavanah. Yakaven b'kol lailach avavaya achas hascharim Achas Chaim Shaba, Shehem Yud Vav, which are Yud, okay, here we go. We're back to the Havaya. So let's talk about every single night. You have to think about the male aspect of the of that night, which are the letters of, that is, of the Havaya, which are the two male letters, which are the Yud and the Vav, Nikud Chagat Nai, and they had the same. I'm not sure exactly how this works. We're going to see. B'nikud Chagat Nai, V'Hanok Shehem, the two Hays, B'nikud Kibbutz. Now he wants to show it to us, so let's see if I can understand. So he says, Hine B'kol Shem Havaya. Every time that you mention the name Havaya, Zacharim are the letters Yud and Vav, Shebeshem. Kihem Ramazin La'aba V'Lezer Anpin Kenoda. V'Hanekeva V'Hem Hey Hey. Kihem Ramazos the Ima Malchus Kenoda, because they're really a reference to Ima and Malchus, as we know. Havaya Shechal HaBracha Rishona. Now, when you get to the Havaya of the first bracha, Shal Lahadlik Ner Chanukah Yikavin, this is the Kada Yishecha V'Nikud Osios Zacharim Shehem Osios Yud and Vav. And what should be their Nikud? Be their Nikudim. He says Nikud Seder Chasfiros Chagat V'Nai. So he says that in other words, we're going to look at them, and we're going to look at the Seder, the Sfiros, but we do it from the top to the bottom. The Hainu Le'el Risha. Let's take the first night. Nikud Chesed Shuhu Segel. Of Le'el Beis, Nikud Gevur, which is Shva. Le'el Gimel, Nikud Teferes, which is the Holim. On the Dalet, it's a Nikud Netzach Shuhu Chivik. And then you go to Hey, which is going to be Nikud the Shuruk. And then the Vav is going to Nikud Yisod Shuhu Malafon. So Leil Zayin Gam came Nikud Yisod. There's also going to be Yisod, because we said the Yisod is two parts. It's the Zachar Banok. It's Yisod and the Yotaris Yisod. But now both of them are going to be with a Nikud of Malafon. Even the letters in the Nuk, Shehem Osios Hey Hey, which are the two letters Hey. Sheminake B'Kol Lilos B'Nikud Ahod, that all of them are going to be with a Kubutz. He calls it a Shurak here. B'Kibbutz, which he calls the Shurak. But now on the seventh night, Hein Menukade B'Nikud Yisod Kamon Nikud Azharm, the same thing like the men. Shmini, now we finally get to the eighth night. You have a Chavavaya B'Nikud Svakois, so it's the common one. Of a Hey Achrona B'Kibbutz, and then the final Hey is going to be with the Kibbutz again, or you could pronounce it as a Kibbutz. It must be Hasidish. Ovalecha Shmini, so on the eighth night, Nikud of Malchus, Nikud Svakois. He calls the Nikud of Malchus the Nikud of Svakois. V'hahei Achrona, you're not going to, it just repeats itself. B'shurak Kibachal Halaylos. V'seidacham Shakasim Ku Melamala Lamata, so he said that previously. V'seidacham Shakasim Knizka Shanizka, so how is it in fact that they flow? Is B'Nikud Chagat Nai, it starts with the Chesed, and it goes downwards. Milamala Lamata. Chesed Gevur Teferes Netzach Hod Yisod V'Zech B'Tzuras Hashemos, and now he's going to show us what it actually looks like. So he says here you have, it's interesting, the Yud, let's just take the first one. He says is going to be, the male parts are going to be Chesed, and the female parts are going to be Hod. Lil Beis is you're going to still have the female parts are going to be Hods. The male part is going to be, what is that? I think it's a Kubutz. Excuse me, I think it's a, Shva. I'm getting my glasses here. It's a Shva. And then let me see what this one is. Very hard for me to see it. Let me get down close. He says, it's also Shva. Okay. Leil Gimel is going to be Cholim. Okay. And then the female aspects are always going to be the Shurak, the Dalid. The Leil Dalid is going to be a Chirik. And then you're going to have a Kubutz. This is for the male parts. And then you're going to have the markings of Yisod. It's on a Leil Zion is also going to be like that. Yisod Leil Ches is going to be I think that's what he calls tzavakos. Let's go on a little bit more, and let me get this back where I could see it again. And he says, so when you get to the vayas of the second bracha, Shasa Nisim, you come in Bekal Laila B'Chavaya Achas. Each night we'll have only one Havaya. Excuse me, on that one Havaya, V'Nikuda Bina, and its Nikud will be Bina, Chagat, and Nehim. Those are going to be the Nikudos. So let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let me just got this again, Bina, and then the 3 from Chagat. And then instead of Nai, he has Nehim. Now here, they're coming from the other direction, from the bottom to the top. Of a vaya, the bracha Rishniya. So when we get to the vaya, the second bracha, which is the bracha called Asash Asa Nisim, Yikavim Kal Hashem Hainach Nikud Osios Asacharim V'Chanukah, so that the same Nikud that said Nikud Abina, where they're all going to be with this Nikud of Bina. So how's this work? Shuhud Seri ad Nikud the Malchus until you get the Nikud that goes with Malchus. In other words, you're going to go down like that. But the way they work is from the bottom to the top. Haino Leil Rishon, the first one is going to be Nikud, is going to be the Nikud of Malchus, which is the Nikud Tzavakot. Of the Leil Beis, Nikud Yesod, Shuhu Malafim. So he says, Ubeleil Gimel, Nikud Ahod, which is a Shurak. Of the Leil Dalad, Nikud and Natzak, Shuhu Kirik. And let's just look down below, and he actually has it laid out, where he says the Leil Aleph is going to look like Tzavakos, which he said. And this is Malafum, which is going to the second night. We're going upwards now. Leil Gimel is going to be Hod. Leil Dab is going to be Netzach. Leil Hey is going to be Teferes. Leil Vav is going to be Gevura. And Leil Zion is going to be Chesed. Leil Ches, that's the 8th night, is going to be interesting. It's going to be Tseri. So now we go over Teves Sha'asa Nisim. I think we're going to see something we know already. Yikavin Lahamshik Shin Ayin Nahorim Shahim Beis Kale Malayin. I'm going to skip down to number Lamed Bet. Zerahayotza Mipasha the Mali Desag Sha'olam Begematria Chanukah. Vuhu Shachavavaya Peshuta Gematria Ku. And with the Dalad Osios of the Hakolel, it gets to the number Kale. Now he wants to say over here there's going to be 2 kales. That's one way that you get 2 kales. So it's ku with 4 letters, which is with the 4 letters of the Havaya, and also a kolel, it will give you the kale. So this is a kavana, he says. This is what you should be kavave, mekave. V'shem sag yesh bochu yud. So, but also the name sag, which is a part of the name of Sha'asa Nesin over here, that kavana. He says also it's vocalized, or it has 3 yuds and an aleph, which is gematria of kale again. Behemoth b'leim and asash and aleph, and you could do the same thing. It will make the number 370. So now you have these lights that are coming off of the face of Eric Anpin is reflected in the second bracha. He says number Lamed Daled. He says Kedei lahamtik pashut umale the Elokem. So he says, in order to be able to sweeten that, that's really what you're trying to do. You're trying to sweeten that. Now it's going upwards now. It's a little, usually I think it's sweetening going downwards. So Pasha, the Mali, the Lokim, the Yudin, should be Gematria Shin Hey. The Zechav Shin Ayin Shin Hey. And that brings us to that concept that we mentioned and we learned previously. So he says, now I'm skipping over to number Lamed Hey. He says that Nisim Heim Nanai. So it's also. Then you have that word Haza, which is a tremendous shining. And then you have the word Nisim, that refers to the word shining too, I think. Vuha Hanetzach hu ma. So Netzach really refers to the flow of ma. V'hod hu adni. And hod really refers to what? Malchus. Ma, he said ma v'sa, olagam, because adni is a gematria 65. Ma is 45. Ola, they get to the gematria of the word nace. Nace is 50 and 60 is 110. The Yisod Kolochem. So the Yisod Kol chamishim sha'arim v'chem yud mem. So the Yisod has the yud and the mem. I guess I'm not sure exactly. It's the last letter of Adni and the first letter of Ma. I'm not sure. V'zecha v'nisim nes yud mem. That's what nisim means. The nes of the yud mem. So I'm just confused about how we got these two letters, where they came from. I didn't quite see that. So he said v'nisim romas the mochin hayordin the nai. So it refers to the mochin that come down into the nai. The nes, that word nes, the nisim, romas the shev ma shebenetzach. So the first one he says what? He says nisim refers to the mochin hayordin the nai. Okay, no problem. And then the word nisim refers to the shem ma shebenetzach, the shem sa, which is same adni, ha'oluk mizbar adni shebahod. So you have these two. Uma v'sa, put them together, olanes. V'yesh the nisim romez, so v'yam, the yud mem the nisim, what do you do? Where do you get that from? Romez the chamisha she'arim, really that's the number 50. It's a reference to the 50 gates, the Yisod, that the Yisod, hu ha-kolo chamishim sh'arim, that it has within it. I think he means to say that they flow into it. Hainu mechesed ad hod, that is that those are the 50. He didn't say it the way I thought. He said that each one of them is 10 Sefirot, so I guess he says a hainu mechesed ad hod is 5 Sefirot, because Sefirot kalul be'eser. So that gives you 5 gates there. The shloshtam ma v'sa v'yam, all of them ola nisim. That's how you get nisim out of it. So that has to be really thought about a little bit. So let's go over to the next part. Let's see, we have until what time here? 5 minutes? 3 and 4 minutes? Okay, now let's look at this. I thought this was pretty generic. It's let's see how it goes. He says, before we say the bracha, we go to the Tefillas L'Shem Yichud. Okay, there it is. And he says, then he says, L'Shem Yichud Kudsha Barichu Ushkinte. And then he shows it to us. That's up at the top. That's what the Yichud looks like. Okay, so let's take a look at his words. He said, L'Shem Yichud Kudsha Barichu Ushkinte. If they call mitzvah. We say this mitzvah, this nusach, shuhu l'shem yichud kudra barichu shkinte. The hein l'sha'al yadecha bezecha mitzvah yihya na'ase yichud shel zer anpin. That through this mitzvah we're causing a yichud to take place. Shuhu kudra barichu, which is zer anpin, is another word for kudra barichu. Or kudra barichu is another name in here. The nuk shehi shkinte, and the nuk, which is a shkina, v'hu yichud zer anpin v'nuk. This yichud is there anpin and nuk shena'asim become mitzvah that has to take place every time you do a mitzvah. It's actually causing a yichud. Zun. So let's say zun. Let's take a look at it. That's number bet, where he wanted to show you zun looks like this. It's a vaya adni in a combo, which makes the number 91. Asiyas and mitzvahs na'ase yichud zer anpin v'nuk kanal. He should shiluv vaya adni. V'amnam srichem l'kavon kodem lechem. But before you get to that yichud shall abba. No, I said wrong. Amnam srichem l'kavon kodem lechem. Before you get to the yichud on the bottom, which is a vaya adni, you have to have this kavanah in mind of the yichud shall Abba ve'ima, because without that you don't have shefa coming down. Kedei l'cham shech mechem mochin l'tzorach yichud. So this is, he says, an important point. He says it's not the fact that the yichud takes place, but you have to really start earlier, that if you don't have a yichud between Abba and Ima, that will not happen. So therefore that's the first kavanah. This is what it always is. That over there, we found that over there. I think this guy, I said, because of this rabbi, has a tremendous bekius. So at any rate, he said, so this is a preparation over there. Shena'asa Yichud Shel Zerachan Anvid Benuk, which is where the big time Yichud takes place in the Shemona Esrei. V'chein Kuba called the mitzvahs, and the same thing in all of the mitzvahs. But Bechinas Yichud, so when we talk about the Yichud, that Bechina, it happens as a result of putting these two names together. Now this we know. So that actually, that is the Yichud, but he says it makes the Yichud. Putting the letters together like that makes the Yichud. So he said, and so he says, just 1 second here, he says, okay, now we're at the top, I'm sorry, moved over. That represents the zivug of Abba ve'ima. So let's explain it more. He said the shem yichud kudjabarichu. So that phrase, he says, of the shkinte, shuhu yichud zavanuk, shuhu shilav shemus avaya adni, kazeh, so he shows it. So just to start back again, he says the yichud that you have to have in mind at the very beginning is the yichud of Havaya Ekya. Because that's the yichud of Abba ve'ima. So in order, what you're doing that is in order to bring you to a yichud of the one that we're going to talk about now. He said, Abba ve'ima, excuse me, I'm getting it wrong. So he said, Abba ve'ima is the Havaya Ekya. Yichud Abba ve'ima nikra ha'dechilu v'lechimo. It's called by those two names. Abba hu b'chinas yira hanikra dechilu. Ve'ima hi b'chinas ava. He says hanikra rachimu. So he let's see where that just looked away. So Ayin Chef, look at the chef. It's got something on that. V'yichud shel Abba ve'ima v'b'chus shila v'shemus v'vaya ekya is a combination of those names. V'yichud Abba ve'ima maschalek l'shnei ofanim ofnei yichudim. That's very interesting. It needs explanation by itself, I think, for me. Yichud penimi v'yichud chitzon. If it goes in this way with fear and then let's say love, so then that means that the yichud is going to start with Abba. That's the first yichud. But the Chida came as Yud Shel Shem Havaya, and the way he wants to explain how you do this, and I know we're running out of time. V'Havaya Achar Kach Os Aleph Shel Shem Ekya, V'Shuv Os Hey Shel Havaya, and V'Achar Kach Hey Shel Ekya Kazeh. And then he shows it to us. That's what it looks like. That's the first one. Yesh Yichud Panimi Shemaska L'Yichud, but there's also another Yichud where the Yichud starts al Yedecha B'Chad Shem Ima, Shuhu Shem Ekya. Then comes the Abba. So first it calls Ima to Abba, Abba to Ima. Which way is it? So you take the first letter of the Akya, that'd be the beginning. Os Yud Shel Shem Havaya, V'Shuv Os Hey Shel Shem Ekya, Os Hey Shel Shem Havaya. You go all the way through until you get to this name that looks like this. The Kan Maskil Yichud, that's where the Yichud really starts between Abba ve'Ima, and it caused by the combination of the ideas. And we'll start with number Daled on the next time. This is Baruch Fleischman, Tikkun Elevator Call Out.